Hello and welcome to News Now. I am Annetta Felix. A former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Olisa Agbakoba, SAN, says he has submitted a petition against Justice Tanko Muhammad, who was appointed as the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria by President Muhammadu Buhari. In a statement from his chambers on Monday, Agbakoba said he submitted his petition to the National Judicial Council, asking it to determine the propriety of Justice Muhammad accepting to be sworn in by President Buhari in place of the suspended CJN, Justice Walter Onoen. According to Agbakoba, by submitting himself to the president to be sworn in as acting CJN, Justice Muhammad lent himself to a constitutional infraction by the executive arm of government. He prayed the NJC to determine his petition by immediately removing Justice Tanko Muhammad as Justice of the Supreme Court on grounds of gross misconduct, which has generated perhaps the most controversial crisis in Nigeria's judicial history. A non-governmental organization, Nigerian Families for Baba Buhari, have staged the protest in support of the suspension of Walter Onoen as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Bearing placards with various inscriptions, the group gathered at the Ganifa Park in Ojota, insisting that Onoen lacks the moral standing to remain in office, while also condemning those criticizing the president's action. President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday suspended Onoen, who is accused of false assets declaration, replacing him with Justice Tanko.
All gather here to express our disgust with the action of some segments of the country that have viewed the action of the president in placing the Chief Justice of Nigeria on suspension for false declaration of assets in contravention of the Code of Conduct Bureau Act for public office holder in the country. Nigeria is not a country where anyone should view as above the law, as the law is no respecter of person. And what an irony that the chief law officers of the country will violate the law and will still want to evade justice. If this should ever happen, then Nigeria is no longer a country but a Banana Republic.
How can somebody, the chief law officer of the nation, having over $1 billion in an account and saying that he's forgetting to declare it, does it mean that if I kill somebody today and I go to the court to say that I don't know that the implication of killing is that I should be killed too, and claiming ignorance of such, will the court now say that I should go? And there's no way you can be the judge over your own case. What the president has said is that, look, Oga, go and sit somewhere, let somebody actually determine if you are right or wrong.
The All Progressives Congress has continued to question the restructuring bid of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar. At a press conference in Abuja, APC spokesman Lanre Issa Onilu warned the Igbo community against supporting the opposition party, which he described as deceitful.
Many questions beg for answers. Besides the deceitful restructuring promise, what else do the Indigo stand to gain from an Atiku's presidency? Nothing. Could it be that Atiku and the PDP restructuring rhetoric is selective and bespoke for specific audiences? The answer is yes. Atiku's restructuring rhetoric is simply a convenient, simplistic, and populist gimmick aimed at wiping up and exploit perceived sentiments ahead of the 2019 general elections. Undigo, and indeed all Nigerians, must be wary of Atiku and his PDP ilk, who in their desperate quest for power are ready to play fraudulent political games and parade themselves as ethnic champions to the gullible. We must protect the sanctity of our nationhood.
Former Vice President and presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, says the coming days will determine the fate of Nigeria's democracy. Atiku was speaking to a cross-section of both Nigerian and foreign journalists on the state of the nation as regards the suspension of Walter Onuen as the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
The suspension of the Chief Justice of Nigeria has caused uproar across the country. This single act by the president has generated reactions from Nigerians. One of those in disagreement to this act is the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar. Atiku says the act is not only illegal, but threatens the democracy of the nation.
The universal condemnation of this unlawful act by all Nigerians, as well as the international community. I need to state that this latest action by General Muhammadu Buhari falls squarely within the pattern of executive lawlessness that has now been firmly turned into statecraft by the APC government. The serial disregard of court orders and consequent violation of constitutionally guaranteed human rights of our citizens confirms beyond all doubt that General Buhari and his government would rather obey their own whims and operate by separate rules outside the well-established constitutional order and the rule of law. It scarcely requires emphasis that this behavior is alien to democratic rule and more in line with that of a military dictator.
The PDP presidential candidate is also warning the ruling APC to retrace its steps from the undemocratic practices that has put the nation in base light in recent days. He, however, urged the Nigerians to stand up and fight for democracy.
The issue at stake is not whether the Chief Justice is guilty or not, but whether his removal from office has been done in accordance with the process specified in our Constitution. As a Democrat, I must say, without evocation, that no mission or goal, no matter how noble or well-intended, should be used as a pretext for the subversion of our democracy and our democratic institutions. To create a condition that allows the Constitution and the rule of law to become secondary to any other agenda is to pave the way for tyranny. History is replete with odious dictators whose path to dictatorship started with statements of good intentions. We must therefore remain vigilant in defense of our democracy.
Vice President has promised to uphold democratic principles if elected next month. Unyi Adekunle, TV360, Nigeria.
The Igbo community in Lagos has continued to rally support for the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC. The latest in this is the endorsement of Babajide Sanwo-Olu and his running mate Hamzat by Apex Igbo Socio-Cultural Group Ohaneze Ndigbo over the weekend. The group says the endorsement of Buhari is based on the evidence development in the southeast.
16 years of PDP in the southeast and almost 4 years of APC in the southeast in terms of structures on ground, projects on ground. And 4 years, almost 4 years of APC beat 16 years of PDP in the southeast in terms of performance and what is on ground. And that's what we are telling our people. And again, we don't want them to make the mistake they made in 2015, in 2014, 2015. Because there's no road for PDP.
This government has finished many roads that could not be finished in 16 years. So I mentioned Enugu to Port Harcourt. I mentioned Enugu to Onitsha. I mentioned the 9th mile, which persistently, if you know Enugu, has been flooded. That this government has resolved. They have also seen the second Niger bridge. That the government then stated that they've started and there was no design. This government designed it. The connecting road from Asaba to Onitsha that will link up the bridge was not designed. So this government that designed it. So now they can see the piles coming up. So the people of Southeast are pragmatic. They've seen the development in the local area in Southeast, and therefore they are translating that to us. And they've also seen what Lagos State government is doing. So I can assure you, given what they are telling us, they will give us massive, massive support.
Barely 2 weeks to the presidential election, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has vowed that more corrupt people will be jailed if President Muhammadu Buhari is re-elected into power. Osinbajo was speaking during his day-to-day campaign seeking re-election in the Ifako-Ijaya local government area of Lagos.
Our major aim, the philosophical basis for our own party is truth and integrity. And the point I made here is that everybody, even Buhari's worst enemies, know that he's an honest person and that he's a straightforward person. You need to have a president who is honest and straightforward. You need to have a president who is honest. The major problem that Nigeria has is that of grand corruption. Corruption at the highest level. That's the major problem we have. I'm not even talking about contractual corruption now. I'm talking of corruption at the highest level. That's the problem we have. That's one of the reasons why we've been so slow in making progress. And I think that also explains why it is that despite earning 60% less revenue, we're doing far more than even the previous government. We're spending 2.7 trillion on capital, the highest in the history of the country, despite earning 60% less.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Donald Duke, says he's worried that the current litigations over his candidature will affect the affairs of the party. The former governor of Cross River State made this known while addressing journalists. The Court of Appeal had declared Duke as the presidential candidate of SDP for the February 16th presidential election. But the presidential campaign team's spokesperson, Jerry Gana, has vowed to drag Duke before the Supreme Court.
The party is concerned, the national chairman and the executives, because they're hurting. It's affecting the campaigns, not just for the presidency, throughout. You know, there are folks out there, people running for governorship, Senate, House of Reps, they just can't get the momentum because the presidential candidates have not gotten their act together. And I'm sorry for them, but we need, even if it's for their sake, we need to do something. If SDP can come out of this experience with a few members in the House of Assembly, House of Reps, Senate, a few governors, it's a start. But let's do something. But we need to show we're leaders.
The Ekiti State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, sitting in Abuja, has unanimously struck out Olushola Eleka's case, challenging the emergence of Kayode Fayemi as the governor of the state in the 2018 Ekiti governorship election. Eleka, candidate of the People's Democratic Party, who came in second in the poll, challenged the result of the election, alleging series of election irregularities and malpractices. The tribunal, ruling on the case on Monday, struck out Eleka's case and ruled that Fayemi is the duly elected governor of the state. Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom says the federal government should be held responsible if anything happens to him. Ortom expressed this while speaking to journalists in Abuja on the security situation in the north central state.
A clarion call that all of us should stand up and chase that cabal away because we did not elect any cabal in that villa. I know that I'm being persecuted because the cabal don't like me. They do all kinds of things. EFCC have been chasing me, chasing my staff in the past 10 months. I'm not at rest, and I've not done anything wrong. But they've been chasing me all over the place. Persecution is so much, threats, including about my life. If I die today, the federal government should be held responsible. They are responsible because they are planning to even eliminate me. But I'm not going to stop. I will continue to defend my people. The primary responsibility of any responsible government is to defend the people, provide security for lives and property.
Autumn have also condemned the former Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, for a high level of unprofessionalism and recklessness while charging the new IG to uphold professionalism during his tenure.
Since I left Godfathers, I've been paying salaries now. I was not paying salaries before. You know, and you are aware that those Godfathers had given me automatic ticket in APC so that I will remain there and they will rubbish me. You know? But I said no. I want due process to be followed. And when they said no, I decided to leave. And so those are the kind of things I'm saying. The godfather of APC in Benue State is George Akume. Everybody knows that. He's the leader of the party here in PDP. Once you are a governor, you become the leader of the party in your state. But in APC, even when I was governor, there was a different leader, Senator George Akume. And then he heard the ask, whatever he decided took place. And so now I'm a free man, just like a bird that has been let loose from a cage. And you know, I'm flying without pitching based on falsehood and claiming that, well, whatever happens, they will use federal might. We're waiting for them because I know from experience that when you don't have the support of the people, you cannot talk about rigging election anywhere, except the people are supporting you. And today in Benue State, APC is completely rejected. It is not a party that we should be having sleepless nights, and I'm not having one. And I want to say that by the grace of God, we're going to beat them. They have no hold anywhere. The APC government have completely failed, and this leadership have nothing to offer. If you challenge them, those who have been there wouldn't do anything, and they have become a burden on the people of Benue State and those who are elected. And for once, we are going to end up what we call godfatherism.
The Zamfara State Governor Abdulaziz Yari has expressed satisfaction with the outcome of the court judgment on the APC primaries conducted in the state in October 2018. The governor was speaking to journalists after a private meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the Asa Villa in Abuja. The Zamfara State High Court, sitting in Gusau, the state capital, upheld the primary election conducted by the APC state chapter.
God, He did it once again for us by giving us victory. The court accepted that Zamfara State APC has conducted the primaries, and based on the witness presented before that court. So we the Zamfara people are happy with the outcome, and we thank the Department of Justice and the judges who stood on their ground to ensure that justice has been delivered.
Meanwhile, the Jigawa State Governor Atiku Abubakar has been boasting of his achievements in office in the last 4 years. Atiku, who was speaking with some group of journalists, revealed that the state government have imposed a drastic change with basic infrastructure development across the country.
I will be blowing my trumpet. You should have gone to Jigawa and asked the people. You could have gone to Jigawa and asked them. In Jigawa, we have a program called One Village, One Project. And we fully achieved a lot. And if you look at our health indices, we have improved dramatically. In education, we have improved. In infrastructure, we have built more than 1,400 roads across the state. And we are still doing more. So it's just there. Send a team there, and I'm sure you will be surprised with what you see.
Well, we saw
resident doctors at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, LUTH, Ikeja, have embarked on a 3-day warning strike following the failure of the state government to recruit more health officers and resident doctors. This was disclosed by the president of the Association of Resident Doctors, Dr. Balogo Fatai. He said that the strike is total, involving both emergency and clinical operations in the hospital. Fatai explained that after several meetings held between the association, government and management officials, there were no signs that new resident doctors will be engaged in the hospital. We'll take a break here and we'll be right back. Do stay with us.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
Wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
You're welcome back. And let's talk business now with Oyin Adekunle. Hello, Oyin.
Hi, Anita.
So what's making the headlines in business today?
On infrastructure, President Muhammadu Buhari has been highlighting the funding mechanisms adopted for the infrastructural development across the country. The president made this known after signing the Executive Order 007, which allows private... It was speaking while addressing members of the Federal Executive Council at the Villa in Abuja.
Occupying the 11th position on the World Worst Road Quality and Network in the 2018 Global Competitive Index, the Nigerian government has been seeking to tie loose ends in infrastructural development. In this regard, President Muhammadu Buhari has faulted some factors responsible for the poor performance of road construction in the previous years.
In recent years, our reliance on annual budgetary allocations to fund roads development has been disappointing, given that our budget proposals have not always been passed in an expeditious manner by the National Assembly. There have also been revenue shortfalls that have hampered our efforts to fully fund critical projects. Furthermore, at the inception of this administration, we met a significant backlog of local contractors' debts, which as a responsible administration have undertaken to clear.
In order to bridge the gap of road infrastructure in the transportation sector, the president has now signed an Executive Order 7, which allows private companies build federal roads in the country. The president is also seeking the cooperation of local and foreign stakeholders across the country in the execution of road projects.
Through this scheme, companies that are willing and able to spend their own funds on constructing roads to their factories or farms will recover their construction costs by paying reduced taxes over a period of time. We shall ensure complete transparency in these setups. I call on other local and international investors, as well as state governments, to embrace this roads infrastructure development scheme. I personally invite you to submit viable proposals for more road projects, such that in time the scope of this initiative will cover all 36 states of the Federation. I note the prudent fiscal risk management measures which the Minister of Finance has adopted to protect the integrity of this program.
The President, however, urged the Minister of Finance to ensure quick inauguration of the Management Committee of the scheme.
I have charged the Minister of Finance to ensure that Management Committee, which is saddled with the responsibility of implementing this road infrastructure development scheme, is promptly inaugurated so as to enable the swift and smooth takeoff of this landmark initiative. I trust that the members of the Management Committee, under the leadership of the Minister of Finance, as well as the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, will discharge their duties in a diligent, responsible, and patriotic way.
The federal government is making a move to develop new techniques to ensure critical roads infrastructure involving top private investors in the country and relieving the government of the burden of funding the initial outlays of these investments. Adeshawa, Odushoga, TV360 Nigeria.
Let's now turn our attention to the stock market reports. The equities markets could not extend its gains from last week as the return of the bears resulted in a decline of 0.26%, leaving the market to close at 31,344 basis points, while market capitalization closed at 11.688 trillion naira. Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC, leading the percentage laggards today, it lost 20 naira to close at 520 naira. Coming next, also on the list, is Badger Paints PLC, United Bank for Africa, and Dangote Flour PLC, all closing at 9.68%, 4.55%, and 4.62% respectively. Meanwhile, on the flip side, we see that Total PLC, Nigeria PLC, is recording gains for the second day in a row, appreciating almost by 9 naira. And also it is closely followed by the Better Glass PLC from the industrial goods sector. Third on the chart is Zenith Bank PLC, which saw a boost of 45 kobo, and Owando PLC comes fourth, increasing in value for the third consecutive day. In summary, over 220 million shares were traded in 4,150 deals, valued at 1.84 trillion naira. The losses were also, the losses actually were also extended to the foreign scene, where the FTSE closed at 0.91% and Nikkei also closed in the negative territory, declining by a combined 2.9%. The summary of today's trading activities shows that almost 500 million shares were sold to the tune of over 5 billion naira in 3,874 deals. The Financial Times and London Stock Exchange FTSE managed to keep its head above water as it gained by 0.32%. The Dow Jones ended on a high today by 2.06%. Nikkei also increased by 0.26%. That's all on business. It's over to you, Aneta.
Thank you very much for that, Oyi. So we'll go over now and see what's happening around the world.
Corruption not in my country.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
My name is Alero. I am not sick. I just need you to help put your stamp on this medical report. I want to tender it at my office as a sick leave. I'll pay 10,000 naira.
Ma'am, that is impersonation. I'm not a doctor.
Oga, be like say this English no go pay. I go increase the money to 20,000 naira. I beg. You know, if I give you that 20,000, as you wide, so you know, if it still help your condition more. So you know, say you spread well.
As I spread like virus, I'll be.
You talk.
Come out! If person come your hospital, talk say make you give am fake medical report, make you go take collect sick leave. Talk and say no, na corruption. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
The number of deaths from a collapsed dam at a Brazilian iron mine rose on Sunday from 37 to 58. Local reports say 427 people were in the mine in the southeastern state of Minas Gerais when the dam burst on Friday, unleashing a muddy sea of mining debris into the region. Hundreds of people are still missing, and the extent of the damage is still being calculated, especially in the mining town of Brumadinho, which was nearly buried in the flood. Authorities temporarily halted search and rescue on Sunday and placed 3,000 people under evacuation orders amid fears that another dam nearby was about to rupture. The disaster renewed scrutiny of Brazilian mining giant Vale, which was linked to another deadly dam collapse in Minas Gerais less than 4 years ago. In sports, the Confederation of African Football, CAF, have confirmed that the 2019 African Cup of Nations in Egypt has been pushed back by 6 days to cater for Ramadan and allow Muslim players time to rest and recover from a month of fasting. CAF also announced that the tournament will now kick off on June 21st instead of June 15. The final was put back 6 days to July 19. Now, the move came after a request from a group of North African nations, and CAF approved the delay at a special executive committee meeting. Some of Africa's biggest stars, including Egypt forward Mohamed Salah and Senegal winger Sadio Mane, are Muslims. 14 countries have already qualified for this year's CAF, including first-time participants Madagascar and Mauritania. French club Olympique de Marseille will play behind closed doors until officials have finished investigations into a firecracker that was thrown onto the pitch during the last Ligue 1 game. The firecracker interrupted play for 38 minutes during the Provence side's 2-1 home defeat by Lille on Friday. Marseille are 8th in the standings with 31 points from 21 games, with their next home game being scheduled for February 5th against Girondins de Bordeaux. And thanks for watching News Now on TV360 Nigeria. Bye for now.